Hey man, it's your boy Alex, and welcome back to another bang. Today, we are starting a new series on the channel that I would like to call One Piece. Now, in this series, we'll be traveling through time throughout the series of One Piece, where we will be reminiscing over every major fight and battle in every major saga, starting all the way back to the East Blue Saga. And in the One Piece debut, we'll be talking about how the Straw Hats traveled to Arlong Park to rescue Nami. So if you have somehow not seen episodes 40 through 43 of One Piece, spoiler warnings ahead. And without further ado, it's time to get unhinged. So we start off with the Straw Hats already going through it. Luffy is drowning and Zoro's getting jumped by everything on the hibachi menu. So Sanji takes it upon himself to dive in and save his captain. But he gets smacked from behind by one of the fishmen. And Arlong's ugly ass is just sitting there laughing it up. And I don't know what's so funny, because if I looked like this, I would not be laughing. I mean, look, bro's chin takes up 70% of his face. But anyways, while Buddy was cheesed up, Sanji shakes back and begins to fight a fishman underwater. And as expected, it is a straight ass whooping. Every time Sanji blinks, he is getting smacked with fishman karate. And along with this beatdown, he is also running out of breath. So he attempts to escape to the surface, but Karubi catches up to him and proceeds to laugh in this man's face. But then he wraps Sanji up and drags him to the bottom. And somehow this man survives this, so Karubi brings him back up to do it again. But Sanji turns into a big brain as he proceeds to pump air into his gills to suffocate him, which makes Karubi release him, allowing Sanji to resurface as he reunites with Zoro. But Sanji was not finished. He points at the water and tells Karubi to bring his ass to the surface. And as soon as he did, Sanji proceeded to kick the shit out of this man. Karubi did not stand a chance above water, especially when he was talking shit about Nami. I mean, Sanji hit this man so hard it replayed 4 different times. Like, there is no chance he comes back from that. Bro, look at the dent he left in the wall. Sanji really gave him the work. But that was just the prelims, because Arlong gets up and he is pissed. And now he stands before Sanji and Zoro as they prepare to face off in the main event. But we cut to Usopp, who's over here lying in ketchup to fake his death, just so Chu could stop beating his ass. And Chu is a little slow, so he assumes that he killed him and proceeds to walk away. But Usopp sits up and begins to think about everyone that he cannot let down. So he turns around and calls Chu out, telling him to run it back. And as Chu runs at him, Usopp aims his slingshot and fires. Yeah, go ahead and wrap it up for me. Chu walks over to Usopp's slump body and proceeds to kick him. So Usopp pulls a hammer out of his inventory and smacks Chu in the shin, and then aims a singular rubber band at his face. And somehow Chu fell for this ridiculous hezzy, because when he opens his eyes again, Usopp is nowhere to be found. Until he chunks a bottle of sake at him from the trees and blows it up, completely covering Chu in it. And Chu retaliates by sucking up all the water around him and blasting it at Usopp's general direction. And luckily for Usopp, that man barely missed, but this slow individual blew his cover while looking at the carnage. So Chu began to gun him down with water bullets, and then kicks the tree he was hiding behind and catches it. But Usopp dives back and launches his flaming star attack at Chu, who lights on fire because of the sake he was doused in earlier. And as he begins to run towards the water, Usopp chases him down and knocks him into it with his giant hammer. And Chu is still conscious after the fact, so Usopp continually beats him until he was no longer. We then come back to Arlong, who has incapacitated Zoro and Sanji, when suddenly Nami comes out of nowhere and says that she's here to kill him. Now hearing this, Arlong gives her an ultimatum. She can either come back and work for the Arlong pirates, or he's going to kill everyone in the village except her. But the twist is, even if she does go back, he still plans on killing the Straw Hats. And to Arlong's surprise, she turns around and tells everyone that they're going to fight to the death. And in that exact moment, Luffy regains consciousness, but his body is still stuck at the bottom. So Sanji dives in to break him free, while Zoro stays at the top to distract Arlong. And Usopp also arrives to help out, but y'all know damn well he's getting nowhere close to that fight. And while everybody was distracted, Zoro takes his chance to attack Arlong, but his attack does no damage. And while he's dealing with Arlong, Hachan gets up and dives in the water to attack Sanji. And this is when Arlong stabs Zoro with his pointy ass nose. But back in the water, Hachan basically explodes, and Sanji finally breaks Luffy free. And as soon as Luffy goes airborne, he grabs Zoro, snatches him back, and headbutts Arlong. and he follows that up with a kick and a gum pistol. And Luffy was not finished. He bombards Arlong with punches all the way back into the building, and everyone is just watching in awe. But Arlong gets up and asks Luffy, "Is that all you got?" And Luffy cracks his knuckles and says, "Nah, this is just the warm-up." But Arlong walks up to Luffy and asks him, "Do you know what the biggest difference between you and me is?" And this man Luffy gonna say, your nose? No, wait. Your jaw.
But I'm not a rapper.
Bro is really roasting one of the 7 warlords of the sea mid-battle. So this understandably pisses off Arlong, so he attempts just to bite Luffy. And Luffy was weaving him until he got grabbed by the neck and pushed into a pillar. But before Arlong could bite his face off, Luffy grabs his head and moves it out the way. And as Arlong stands before Luffy, they prepare to face off for their final battle. So off the rip, Arlong attempts to bite Luffy again, but Luffy weaves it and grabs 2 swords as he begins to flail them around at Arlong. But he stops one of them with his nose and breaks it in half. And when Luffy tries to slice him with the other one, he bites that one in half. But then Luffy twists his body and punches Arlong right in the face. And he punches this fishman so hard, he shatters his teeth. But Arlong gets up and grows an entirely new set. And just to prove a point, he does it 2 more times, out here looking like riffraff. But Arlong attempts to attack Luffy with the teeth he just took out. But Luffy weaves them and kicks him in the face, knocking yet another set of teeth out of this man's mouth and putting it in his own mouth. And Arlong is not finding this very amusing, so he charges at Luffy again. But this time, his attacks are connecting. But Luffy uses this chance to bite Arlong in the shoulder. But Arlong brushes this off and bites him in the elbow. And even though he's in excruciating pain, Luffy has enough strength to plant his foot down and launch Arlong into the ground with the same elbow. And when Luffy gets up, Arlong is nowhere to be found. But Nami spots him in the water and calls him out to Luffy. And this man gonna say, "Hey look, a shark." My brother, that was the same you were just fighting. Lock in. And as Luffy is trying to figure out what he is doing down there, Arlong torpedoes himself out of the water right at Luffy. But Luffy narrowly dodges his attack as Arlong crashes into the building above. And then he does it again as Luffy dodges and Arlong crashes into the ground below. And I thought he was finished, but he begins to spam it like a Charizard side beat until he finally tags Luffy. And right after this, Arlong dives right back into the water. And all of Luffy's friends are telling him to go hide before he gets hit with another sneak attack. But Luffy and those crusty ass sandals are standing 10 toes down. And when Arlong goes to attack him again, Luffy catches him with his fingers. And the momentum launches Luffy towards the building. And when Arlong tries to use that same move, it is no longer working because Luffy counters his attack and stomps him into the ground. But Arlong gets up pissed and begins to twirl Luffy in the air until he launches him into the building. And as soon as Luffy gets up, Arlong dashes in, grabs a sword from the opposite side of the wall, and yanks it out. Hold on, bro. What level of flexibility is this? I took all of 3 seconds to look up how tall Arlong is. Apparently he is 8 feet 6 inches. How in the hell is he able to vertically spread eagle this wide? You know what? It's One Piece, so I'ma let it slide. Arlong proceeds to chase this man with his fat ass sword on every single floor until Luffy is forced to jump into a window, which just so happens to be in the same room where Nami used to work in when she was with the Arlong pirates. But Luffy gets up and tells Arlong that she does not belong to him anymore. Nami is free, and she's a part of our crew now. Now after hearing this, Arlong tells Luffy, "I don't care what you have to say. Nami has a gift, and she's not going anywhere." And after Luffy hears this, he grabs Arlong's blade and breaks it with his bare hand. But he does not stop there. He proceeds to destroy everything in the room and launching some of the items down to the ground below. And the symbolism is beautiful because he's not destroying things just for fun. By destroying that room, he's releasing Nami from the holds of her past. But in the midst of destroying the room, Arlong attempts to stop him. But even with the shark's teeth stabbing into his neck, Luffy manages to grab Arlong's nose and break it in half. And with one mission on his mind, he kicks his foot through the ceiling and slams it down on the building and Arlong, sending that man through every single floor and causing the entire building to collapse. And everyone watching begins to run for it before they get caught in the carnage. And as the dust settles, Arlong Park has completely fallen. And through all the debris, Luffy is nowhere to be found. Until my goat suddenly bursts out of the top of the wreckage as he yells out to Nami, saying that they will always be friends. And as Nami begins to cry tears of joy, everyone around them cheers, as it's finally kicked in that the Straw Hats have finally defeated the Arlong pirates. And as they're throwing Luffy in the air to celebrate, Nami walks up to him to return his hat. as they both share big smiles and a high five. But suddenly, this crusty-ass marine named Nezumi walks up and says that he wants all the treasure and money from Arlong Park. So Zoro walks up to him and beats him and his crew, and Nami finishes him off by smacking him with her long pole. And as the Straw Hats officially reunite, the villagers continue to celebrate. We then fast forward to Nezumi contacting Navy headquarters, and he officially declares Luffy and his crew enemies of the government. And with the large bounty now placed on his head, we get the first look of Luffy's wanted poster, which will now be spread across the world. Alright, so this concludes the first episode of the One Piece series. The next episode will cover the Arabasta saga, so stay tuned. And also drop whatever other shows you want me to do in the comments below. Once again, I appreciate everybody for watching. And before you leave, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. It's your boy Atlas, and I'll catch you next time.
Later, Nick.